Hi y'all, today we're going to be talking about the Lachmann Shroud. And my god, this thing is bad. So, the Shroud is essentially a burst fire MP5 with an integrally suppressed barrel. It stinks. It honestly is really, really awful. The only way I've been able to have any sort of success with this weapon, and keep in mind any sort, because it is not ideal, is on Shipment and select fire with the Hipfire build. And if you don't like Shipment, then this gun really, really sucks. And for long shots, you're just going to have to deal with the fact that this gun is bad. So, the way I found this gun to be the most effective in quotation marks, is with the Hipfire setup for Shipment, because the ranges are low, you can just set it into semi-auto, and it feels a lot better that way. So, in the way of attachments, I run the stockless mod just for some more mobility, because you're not going to be aiming anyway. I run the drum just for the extra ammo for the spam ability, but you can honestly leave it blank. You could even take the 15 if you're feeling confident. It's not mandatory. If you are going to lose the drum, I'd recommend replacing it with anything you want. Maybe an ammunition option if you're really feeling bold. I don't have any of them unlocked, but whatever. I run the agent grip in the underbarrel for hipfire accuracy. I run the longest barrel available for hipfire accuracy, and it is also tuned for recoil and damage range. And I run the hipfire laser, which is also tuned for hip spread and hip move speed. Point is, the only way this gun is even remotely tolerable to use is in hipfire on Shipment. Otherwise, it just sort of stinks. Even then, it still sort of stinks. I wouldn't ever use it in burst fire, because then it really feels bad. It feels terrible in burst fire. And in semi-auto hipfire, it only just barely feels remotely competent. It is not a good gun. It is absolutely a gun that you can very safely skip if you're going for polyatomic. There are far better submachine guns. There is pretty much no reason to use this thing unless you really, really like the MP5. And if you really like the MP5, there's already an MP5 in the game known as the Lachmann sub. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You can even put suppressors on that Lachmann too. So, it feels worse than the M16, and the M16 is already notorious for being bad. Like, the M16 is already notorious for just being shitty because it's a burst AR. And you take all of what makes the M16 barely tolerable to use in select circumstances, and you put it into a smaller package on a submachine gun. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not very good. It doesn't feel good to use. It doesn't feel fun to use. And if you're really going to force grind it out, do it on Shipment. I mean, Shipment 24/7 is basically all that's available now, so just cope with it, max it out before Modern Warfare 3 comes out, and deal with it. So, like I said, first thing you're going to do upon starting a match is you're going to swap it into semi-auto, and you're going to use it only in hipfire. Because in hipfire, at least, it's not that bad. It's still bad, ow, but it's not that bad. And I know it's Shipment, like, oh boy, you're just playing Shipment. Of course Shipment is good for any gun. That really emphasizes just how awful the MP5 SD is, Lachmann Shroud, whatever you want to call it. That you basically have to run it in Shipment with semi-auto to get any sort of actual value out of it. Or rather, any sort of usability out of it. There are times where the gun will be fun, don't get me wrong. Obviously, like any firearm, it's fun if you manage to do well with it. Just ask any given American. But in terms of actually being a competitive option and actually enjoyable to use, there are like 10 other submachine guns in this game, and all 10 of those other submachine guns feel much better to use. They do not feel nearly as gimmicky, they do not feel nearly as quirky, they actually work out of the box and are not insanely attachment reliant. Until you get this thing maxed out and are able to tune it, this gun feels trash, and even when you get it maxed out and are able to tune it, it still feels trash. Basically, you have to grind it for it to have any sort of usability, and even then, it still sucks. Now you may be asking, oh, why don't you just aim it down the sights? I mean, you could, but if you're leaving it in burst fire, then it still has terrible damage output, so good luck anyway. And if you still build it for short, then sure, the recoil's still not that bad, but you're still losing out on a ton of mobility. The only reason I've been able to make it work in hipfire, and keep in mind, this is Shipment, where basically every gun works in hipfire, is because then at least you have mobility going for you. If you don't get packet lagged, because Modern Warfare 2 is a well-made game. It is genuinely awful. It is genuinely awful. If you're a good player and commonly get placed in high skill-based matchmaking lobbies, forget about it. Like, I would honestly advise trying to tank your SBMM purely to get easier lobbies to use with this thing, because it feels that garbage. In addition, the camo challenges on it also suck. They are double kills, kills from behind, kills overall, and mounted kills. on a gun with next to no damage output. It's not fun, it's not enjoyable, it's not good, and there's no reason to use it. I know I'm repeating myself, but seriously, this gun is that bad. I cannot overstate just how awful the Shroud is. It doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel usable, it doesn't feel like it has any advantages. If you want a ranged submachine gun, the MX-9 is already available. If you want a silent submachine gun, every other submachine gun in the game can put a suppressor on it. If you want a quirky submachine gun, I mean, the Vector is already someone in that category, and you have the 2 ISOs. It genuinely makes no sense. I don't understand what the point of the Shroud is. Don't get me wrong, it is very clearly a very easy asset flip for Activision, or Infinity Ward, or whoever's developing this game at this point, who knows. It's very clearly a gun they added because they have the assets for it. They already had the Lachmann sub, so just slap a suppressor on it and boom, you've got an MP5 SD. But it just... I've been trying to work my way through leveling this thing and doing the camos for it, and I have never once felt like this gun was better than any other option in a situation. Maybe there's some secret combo I'm missing with it, but as it stands, I cannot recommend this gun. And since they've added so many guns to this game, it's not even like it's a mandatory cope gun that you have to work through to get Orion, because now you can just do other weapons. There's more than enough guns in this game to skip a lot of them, a lot of the really shitty ones, for Orion now. So even in terms of coping through it for a mastery is not necessary unless you really want to collect the weapon mastery things for it specifically. And if you want to do that, well, that's your prerogative. It's just, with a gun like the Shroud, I can't imagine you would ever have a good time. It might be better in hardcore. It absolutely might be better in hardcore. I personally doubt it. But I will note that I am not a hardcore player. I personally do not enjoy playing hardcore, so my interpretations of this gun are for regular core. And for regular core, it's bad. I can't imagine it being much better in hardcore. Maybe slightly better, but we'll see. I'm going to switch it into burst fire now and kind of showcase why I don't like it in burst. For some reason, it oddly feels like it does a lot less damage in burst fire. And I know this could very well be the case. I don't have the detailed weapon numbers because you are sentenced to weapon stat bars and you will like it. But certain other guns in this game have different damage models based on if they are on semi-automatic or burst or automatic, such as the battle rifles. Which leads me to believe this gun probably has that going on as well, and is why I prefer the weapon in semi-auto. Obviously, if you were able to make it work in burst, that's awesome, because I sure wasn't. But, like, it doesn't feel good at anything it does. I am struggling to think of a gun that has left me more, like, whatever. Can I not get that tag? So, okay, whatever. It doesn't feel good. Obviously, it can work, especially because it's Shipment. It's the one place where you go to die. It can absolutely work. Does that mean you're going to have a good time? No, you will not. So, in terms of, like, actual weapon damage output, it's probably like a 3. I mean, you can kill people with it, but it's not like it's going to be an easy time. It's not like it's going to be fun. It's a gun that is, in my opinion, very reliant on Shipment. I dread going for the long shots on this thing because that is going to be tragic. Obviously, for that, you just build full recoil and play something like Shoot House. But given that this is one of the last guns we're going to be getting in Modern Warfare 2, I wouldn't even worry about unlocking this thing for Modern Warfare 3. Obviously, it's another gun. I'm not going to say, oh, don't get a gun, it's bad. Then you won't have it in the next game. Obviously, you should unlock it. It's a very easy unlock, too. I don't remember what the unlock criteria is, but you can do it in, like, one game on Shipment. But it's not good in Modern Warfare 2. I highly doubt it's going to be good in Modern Warfare 3. And, well, I mean, it can be funny. I mean, you're seeing me get hipfire headshots across the map on Shipment, but how much of that is Shipment being just a good map for grinding, and the Lachmann Shroud actually being a good gun to use? I would personally wager that Shipment is doing a whole lot more for this gun than the gun is doing for Shipment. It is unique, at least, and that you can hipfire spam it and have moderate success out of it, but again, there's just literally every other submachine gun in the game. Fuck, you could probably build a hipfire M16 to work better than this thing, and that's an M16. So, I know I'm not playing the best, but it's an average player Shipment with the Lachmann Shroud. I don't know what you expected. If you were looking for some pro gameplay, you're not going to get it here. Just, once you unlock this gun, maybe try it once. See if you really like having an integrated suppressor. You won't. You genuinely will not notice it ever. And, enjoy having a bad time with this gun. I can't recommend it. I can't suggest it. I can't suggest it for Orion because you can just use other submachine guns that are far better than this thing. I can't suggest it as a novelty weapon because it's just junk. I can't suggest it as a fun weapon because it's just junk. I can't suggest it as a competitive weapon because it's just junk. It just genuinely feels terrible in every sense of the word. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It's not ever worth your time. I don't recommend ever using it. And, in general, just use one of the other submachine guns. Look at how many submachine guns we have in this game. You really think you need to use the Lachmann Shroud